What if time does not break with thunder, but with a detail no one can explain? A man appears in the wrong century. A woman in old film seems to hold a device that should not exist. A machine from ancient Greece calculates the heavens with a precision history was not ready to expect. These stories live in the narrow space between evidence and imagination. They are not proof of time travel. They are something more human, moments where our confidence in reality begins to loosen. For centuries, people have wondered whether time is a straight line or something stranger. Science tells us time can bend under gravity, stretch with speed, and behave differently than our instincts suggest. Memory tells us something similar. The past is gone, yet it visits us daily. The future has not arrived, yet it shapes our choices. This journey follows some of the most enduring time-slip stories: alleged travelers, strange artifacts, and impossible memories. Some may be hoaxes, some may be misunderstandings, some may be folklore wearing modern clothes. But each one asks the same quiet question: what if the present is not as solid as we think? What if the first famous time traveler of the internet arrived as a username? In 2000, a man calling himself John Titor appeared on online forums with a claim that quickly became legend. He said he was a soldier from 2036, sent back to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer. The story sounded absurd. Then the details began to accumulate. Titor described his time machine, his mission, his future society, and the theory that time travel might create branching realities rather than one fixed timeline. He spoke of political division, surveillance, portable technology, and online networks before many of these things became everyday life. Some of his predictions failed. Others seemed close enough to make people uneasy. That is what kept the story alive. Was John Titor a traveler from another world line? Or was he simply a sharp observer who understood where technology and fear were already taking us? Maybe the mystery is not whether he came from the future. Maybe it is how often the future begins as something we refuse to believe. A man steps into Times Square and looks as if the city has appeared around him by mistake. The story of Rudolph Fentz begins with a fatal accident in 1950. According to the legend, police found an unusually dressed man struck by a taxi. His clothes looked like they belonged to the late 1800s. His pockets reportedly contained old currency, outdated objects, and identification that did not fit the modern world. Then came the detail that made the story unforgettable. Records seemed to suggest that a man with the same name had vanished decades earlier. Whether true or not, the image is powerful. A 19th century man swallowed by the future. The brightest city in America becoming for him a place of danger and confusion. Skeptics have pointed out problems in the historical record. The tale may have grown from fiction into urban legend, but its emotional force remains. Because all of us eventually become strangers in time. The world changes. The street signs remain, but the city is no longer the same. And one day, each generation wakes up inside a future it never fully imagined. Can a place remember the people who suffered there? In 1901, two English academics visited Versailles and walked near the Petit Trianon. During the stroll, they felt the atmosphere change. The light seemed strange. The mood grew heavy. Then they saw figures in clothing from another century. Later, they believed they may have glimpsed Versailles as it existed before the French Revolution. They described old paths, vanished buildings, and a woman sketching outdoors who reminded them of Marie Antoinette. Their account became one of the most famous time-slip stories in Europe. There are possible explanations: suggestion, confusion, memory reshaped by research. Yet the story endures because Versailles is not just a palace. It is a stage where beauty, power, fear, and tragedy once stood together. Some places seem to hold their past close. Maybe the women stepped into another time. Maybe they entered a psychological landscape shaped by history itself. Either way, the question remains haunting. Do we leave memories in places, or do places leave memories in us? The most unsettling legends often begin inside secret rooms. The Philadelphia experiment is one of them. According to the story, during World War II, the U.S. Navy tested powerful electromagnetic technology on a ship called the USS Eldridge. The goal was invisibility. The alleged result was something far stranger. The ship, the legend says, disappeared. Later versions claimed that crew members became disoriented, physically altered, or somehow displaced in time. The story spread through letters, books, and conspiracy-era fascination. It became part science fiction, part wartime nightmare. There is no solid evidence that the event happened as described. Many researchers believe the story grew from misunderstood naval tests and exaggeration, but the legend survives because the fear behind it was real. The 20th century proved that science could change the world before ordinary people understood the consequences. Radar, nuclear weapons, rockets, and classified experiments made the impossible feel suddenly practical. The Philadelphia story may not reveal a hidden time machine, but it reveals something just as important. Human beings often build powerful tools before they understand what those tools may cost. Sometimes one strange gesture can disturb an entire century. In footage connected to the era of Charlie Chaplin, viewers noticed a person walking in the background while holding something near the ear. To modern eyes, it looks familiar, almost like someone using a phone. But the film belongs to a time before mobile phones. That is why the image spread. It seemed to show modern behavior trapped inside the past. Explanations exist. The object may have been an early hearing device. The person may have been speaking to someone nearby. Our modern minds may simply be seeing what they are trained to see. Still, the clip fascinates people because it exposes how deeply technology changes the body. We recognize the posture, head tilted, hand raised, attention split between the street and a distant voice. Maybe it was not a time traveler at all. Maybe it was a reminder that every age has gestures that will one day look mysterious. And sometimes the past becomes strange only because we are looking at it with the eyes of the future. What would you ask if you met your older self? In 2006, Swedish man Håkan Nordqvist claimed that while repairing a kitchen leak, he found an opening behind the wall. He crawled through and, according to his account, emerged in the year 2042. There, he said, he met himself as an old man. The story is unusual because it is not grand or cosmic. It begins in an apartment, with a household repair, and turns into a confrontation with destiny. Nordqvist claimed he returned with a photograph showing himself beside his future self. Skeptics see an obvious hoax. Believers see one of the strangest personal time travel claims of the modern era. But the reason the story holds attention is emotional. Most time travel stories are about changing history. This one is about meeting the person we are becoming. Would the older self be proud, regretful, gentle, silent? The future is not only a date. It is a version of us waiting at the end of our choices. That may be why this story lingers. The real tunnel may not be in the wall. It may be inside every human life. What if the most convincing time traveler is a machine pulled from the ocean? In 1901, divers near the Greek island of Antikythera discovered a strange bronze object in an ancient shipwreck. At first it seemed like corroded debris. Later, researchers realized it was something extraordinary. It was a mechanical computer. The Antikythera mechanism used gears to track astronomical cycles and predict celestial events. It was built more than 2,000 years ago, yet its sophistication stunned modern historians. For some, the device feels almost impossible. How could ancient engineers create something so advanced only for that knowledge to vanish? But perhaps the lesson is not that someone from the future visited ancient Greece. Perhaps the lesson is that the past was far more brilliant than we once allowed ourselves to believe. History is not a clean staircase from ignorance to intelligence. Knowledge rises, disappears, and returns. Libraries burn, skills die. Civilizations forget what their ancestors knew. The Antikythera mechanism is not only a machine, it is a warning against arrogance. The future may not always be ahead of us. Sometimes it is buried underwater waiting to be recognized. Was Leonardo da Vinci ahead of his time, or did he somehow see beyond it? His notebooks contain flying machines, armored vehicles, anatomical studies, water systems, weapons, gears, and designs that seem to anticipate later centuries. To modernize, Leonardo can feel less like a Renaissance artist and more like a man taking notes from the future. But genius often looks supernatural after enough time has passed. Leonardo watched everything: birds, rivers, muscles, shadows, machines, faces. He studied nature not as scenery, but as instruction. He understood that a wing, a shell, a current, and a tendon could all teach engineering. Many of his inventions could not be built in his lifetime. The materials, engines, and manufacturing methods were not ready, but the ideas were there, waiting. That is what makes Leonardo so powerful. He did not need to travel through time to disturb it. He thought far enough ahead that history had to catch up. His story changes the question. Maybe time travel is not always movement. Maybe in rare minds, it is vision, the ability to see possibilities before the world has language for them. Can an ordinary street hold more than one century at once? Bold Street in Liverpool has become famous for reports of time slips. People claim to have walked down the street and suddenly found themselves surrounded by shops, cars, signs, and clothing from earlier decades. Then, without warning, the modern world returns. Some accounts describe the 1960s. Others mention the 1970s. The details vary, but the structure is similar. A familiar place becomes unfamiliar, as if the city briefly reveals an older layer. There are rational explanations. Cities preserve fragments of the past. Memory can distort. Stress and expectation can shape perception. Once a place becomes known for time slips, people may interpret odd moments through that story. But Bold Street remains fascinating because cities really are built from overlapping time. Every shop replaces another shop. Every road covers older footsteps. A modern street is not one place. It is many places stacked together. Perhaps people are not falling through time. Perhaps they are noticing what cities usually hide. The past does not vanish from a street. It waits beneath the surface, quiet but not gone. What if the future speaks through dreams because waking life is too loud to hear it? Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, gave thousands of readings while in trance. People asked him about illness, history, spiritual questions, and events yet to come. Supporters believe he predicted technologies and social changes long before they appeared. Skeptics argue that many predictions were vague, reinterpreted later, or remembered selectively. That tension is central to prophecy. A prediction rarely arrives as a clean map. It comes as fragments, symbols, impressions. Later generations decide what those fragments mean. But Cayce's story remains compelling because it touches an ancient belief that consciousness may know more than the waking mind can explain. Dreams sometimes solve problems. Intuition sometimes sees patterns before logic catches up. The mind is not a simple machine. It gathers more than we realize, stores more than we can name, and sometimes speaks in strange forms. Was Cayce looking into the future? Or was he revealing the hidden intelligence of the human mind? Either answer leaves us with mystery. How much do we know before we know that we know? The strongest time travel stories rarely offer certainty. They offer fragments. A strange photograph, a witness account, a machine too advanced for its age, a memory that matches an old map, a person who seems to appear where they should not be. None of these is enough to settle the question. But together, they create a pattern that keeps pulling people back. That pattern matters. Human beings are meaning makers. We connect details because our survival once depended on seeing patterns quickly. Sometimes we discover truth. Sometimes we create stories. The challenge is to keep both wonder and discipline alive. If we believe everything, mystery becomes cheap. If we dismiss everything, curiosity dies. The most useful question is not, can this be proven immediately? It is, what does this story reveal? These accounts reveal our fear of being trapped in time. They reveal our hope that the past can return, that the future can warn us, that history may contain doors we have not learned to open. Maybe some mysteries are not valuable because they are solved. Maybe they are valuable because they keep us asking better questions. If time travel exists, it may not look the way movies taught us. There may be no shining portal, no perfect machine, no traveler stepping out with clear instructions. The stories people tell are messier: a glimpse, a slip, a strange object, a moment of recognition in the wrong century. Time, in these accounts, behaves less like a road and more like weather. Science already tells us time is stranger than common sense. Relativity shows that time is affected by speed and gravity. Physics does not support every time travel legend, but it does warn us that our everyday experience is limited. Human life proves this emotionally. A single childhood afternoon can feel endless. Years can disappear in memory. Grief can freeze a moment forever. Love can make the past feel present. We do not simply move through time. We carry it. That may be why these stories matter even when they remain uncertain. They dramatize something we already experience. The past is never completely behind us, and the future is never completely absent. Every present moment is a crossing point. Everything we were meets everything we may become. So what are we really searching for when we search for time travelers? Not only machines, not only proof, not only strange photographs or impossible artifacts, we are searching for reassurance that time does not erase everything. We want to meet the dead again. We want to warn our younger selves. We want to know whether our choices lead somewhere meaningful. We want history to be less silent and the future less dark. That is why these stories survive. Some may be hoaxes, some may be errors, some may be legends shaped by repetition. But they endure because they speak to a real human condition. We are temporary beings who can imagine eternity. The past lives in objects, streets, bodies, and stories. The future lives in decisions made before anyone knows their consequences. The present is the fragile place where both meet. Maybe time travel is possible, maybe it is not. But the deeper truth is already here. We are all carrying messages from the past. We are all building evidence for the future. And every moment asks us the same question: what will remain of us when this present becomes someone else's mystery?